In the quiet sprawl of a tiny Midwestern town, where endless fields of corn whispered under the summer sun, Abigail Harper, then just Abby, grew up in a modest clapboard house that creaked with every gust of wind. Life was simple, bordered by the limits of a paycheck-to-paycheck existence. But Abby's ambition burned brighter than the constraints of her world. With a sharp mind and relentless drive, she clawed her way to a full-ride scholarship at a state university, where she dove headfirst into hospitality management. Her precision and creativity turned heads. And by the time she graduated, Boston was calling, a city pulsing with opportunity. There, Abby transformed herself into a force in the event planning world, orchestrating everything from glittering celebrity galas to intricate corporate retreats and high-stakes weddings. Her name became synonymous with perfection, a go-to for East Coast elites who demanded nothing less than flawless execution. It was at a dazzling gala for a senator's wife, every detail meticulously crafted by Abby's hands, that she caught the eye of Nathan Caldwell. He was a scion of the Caldwell dynasty, a Connecticut family whose investment banking empire and sprawling real estate holdings cast a long shadow over New England's elite circles. Nathan, with his polished charm and easy confidence, approached her as the last guests lingered over champagne. "You're the one who pulled this off, aren't you?" he said, his voice warm with admiration. "I heard it was the work of someone extraordinary." That moment sparked a connection that swept Abby into a whirlwind romance. Within a year, Nathan proposed, and Abby, who had once dreamed of nothing more than a stable life, found herself stepping into the gilded world of the Caldwells, a world she thought would finally give her the family she'd always craved. But the shine of the Caldwell name dulled quickly. At society events, Nathan's mother, Eleanor, introduced Abby with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Abby's a lovely girl. Very grounded. Of course, one's roots are hard to conceal." The words, draped in civility, cut deep, reminding Abby of the chasm between her small-town origins and the Caldwell's old money pedigree. Nathan's younger sister, Claire, 5 years his junior and the quintessential indulged heiress, was no better. Her friendliness was a performance, her smiles laced with a calculated chill. Abby's ideas, no matter how brilliant, were met with polite nods and swift dismissal at family gatherings. Her successes, events that left Boston's elite in awe, were chalked up to grit. "Never genius, hard work," Eleanor would say, her tone implying it was a consolation prize for lacking true talent. At first, Nathan seemed different. He praised Abby's career, marveling at her ability to command a room and turn chaos into elegance. To a woman who'd built everything from nothing, his affection felt like a lifeline, blinding her to the warning signs. But as the years passed, his support waned. When Eleanor's barbs grew sharper, Nathan would only shrug. "That's just how Mom is. Don't take it personally." The words stung more each time, and Abby's dreams of belonging began to fray. Then came the announcement of Claire's engagement, a lavish affair meant to cement the Caldwell name in Connecticut's social stratosphere. Eleanor turned to Abby with a command disguised as a request. "Abby, you'll handle Claire's wedding, won't you? It's only fitting. Since your family." The expectation was clear: no payment, no recognition, just the assumption that Abby's expertise was theirs to exploit. For Abby, a wedding of this scale should have been a triumph, a chance to showcase her skill on a grand stage. Instead, it felt like servitude. Still, she poured herself into the planning, leveraging her industry connections to craft a 3-day spectacle that would dazzle even the most jaded of New England's elite. But as the preparations unfolded, cracks in the Caldwell facade began to show. Vendors called, chasing late payments. One evening, Abby glimpsed financial documents on Nathan's laptop, trust funds drained, the family estate double mortgaged, their investment firm teetering on the edge of collapse. When she confronted Nathan, he brushed it off. "Our accountant's just being cautious. It's nothing." But Abby knew better. The Caldwells were living a lie, and she was caught in its web. The final blow came the morning they left for Connecticut. As Nathan showered, his phone lit up with a message from Rachel, his ex-girlfriend. Something, instinct, perhaps, urged Abby to look. What she found shattered her. months of messages detailing Nathan's rekindled affair with Rachel, who was 4 months pregnant. Plans for a future without Abby unfolded in cold, digital clarity. Her hands shook as she screenshotted the evidence, sent it to herself, and erased her tracks. With a forced smile, she joined the Caldwells in the car, her heart a storm of betrayal and resolve. The Connecticut venue, bathed in the golden glow of an autumn afternoon, was a masterpiece of Abby's creation: crystal chandeliers, bespoke floral arrangements, every detail a testament to her skill. But the moment they arrived, Eleanor pounced. "I gave specific instructions for the seating chart," she snapped, ignoring Abby's explanation about optimizing flow and aesthetics. Nathan, meanwhile, slipped away for hushed phone calls, his secrecy a knife in Abby's side. At the rehearsal dinner, the first clear sign of her exclusion hit hard. The seating had been rearranged, relegating Abby to a table with the staff, far from the family's laughter and clinking glasses. Claire, with a saccharine smile, suggested Abby skip the bridesmaids' brunch to focus on the checklist, your specialty. Right? Each slight, each exclusion, was a calculated move in a game Abby hadn't realized she was playing. The morning of Claire's wedding dawned crisp and clear. Abby rose early, slipping out to check the final details. In the bridal suite, she overheard Eleanor on the phone, her voice sharp. 4 family members at the table, not 5. The daughter-in-law isn't included. This is a blood family matter. The words landed like a physical blow, confirming what Abby had begun to suspect. This wedding wasn't just a celebration, it was her public dismissal. A choreographed humiliation designed to cast her out. As the Caldwell family gathered in the main lounge, Eleanor offered a stiff handshake. "You look very professional, Abby," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. The family chatted openly about a morning meeting Abby hadn't been invited to, their words a deliberate reminder of her outsider status. At the chapel doors, Nathan's hand on her shoulder, once a gesture of love, felt like a prop in their carefully staged drama. The venue sparkled, a vision of elegance Abby had crafted. But as she followed Nathan to the family table, the truth hit like a thunderclap. Every seat was taken. No place card bore her name. No space had been reserved for her. "Is something wrong?" Eleanor asked, her voice laced with feigned innocence. The room seemed to hold its breath. "There's no seat for me," Abby said, her voice steady despite the fire in her chest. Nathan, playing his part, chuckled softly. "Must be a mix-up. Maybe we miscounted." The family's quiet laughter was a shared signal, a confirmation of their plan. Abby's gaze swept the table. Eleanor, smug behind her polished facade. Nathan, complicit yet uneasy. Claire and her fiancé, reveling in the spectacle. The guests watched, their whispers a soft hum of curiosity. She could have fought back, demanded a seat, exposed their cruelty then and there. But that was what they wanted, a scene to paint her as unstable, unfit for the Caldwell name. Instead, Abby straightened, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "I see. I understand everything now." The words hung in the air, simple yet seismic. Nathan's smirk faltered. Eleanor's composure wavered. Abby turned and walked out, her steps measured, her head high. As she passed the staff who'd witnessed her humiliation, she offered a polite nod, her professional mask firmly in place. In the car, the trembling in her hands stilled. A strange calm settled over her, born not of defeat but of clarity. The Caldwells had underestimated her, and that was their mistake. Abby pulled out her phone, her fingers moving with purpose. She wasn't just leaving, she was rewriting the script. The wedding they'd planned as her downfall would become their reckoning. The autumn sun dipped low over the Connecticut countryside, casting a golden haze across the wedding venue, a breathtaking scene of elegance that Abigail Harper had meticulously crafted. But as she stood at the chapel doors, the weight of the Caldwell family's betrayal pressed against her chest. The absence of a seat at the family table wasn't a mistake, it was a calculated strike. The final act in their plan to cast her out. Nathan's mocking chuckle, "Maybe we miscounted," and the cold, conspiratorial laughter of Eleanor, Claire, and the rest of the Caldwells echoed in her ears. Yet, in that moment of public humiliation, Abby felt not defeat but a fire igniting within her. She wasn't the small-town girl they'd dismissed. She was a woman who'd built an empire of her own. And she would not be broken. With a voice steady as steel, Abby spoke the words that shifted the tide. I see. I understand everything now. The Caldwell's smug expressions flickered with unease. Nathan's smirk faltered, and Eleanor's polished facade cracked ever so slightly. Abby turned, her navy suit crisp against the soft glow of the chandeliers, and walked out of the chapel. Each step was deliberate, her head held high as she passed the staff who'd witnessed the scene. Their eyes wide with unspoken sympathy. She nodded politely, her professional mask unshaken, but inside, a storm was brewing, not of tears, but of resolve. In the safety of her car, Abby exhaled, the trembling in her hands giving way to a strange, unshakable calm. The Caldwells had underestimated her, banking on her to crumble under their orchestrated shame. They were wrong. She pulled out her phone, her fingers moving with the precision of a conductor leading a symphony. This wasn't just an exit, it was the opening move in a game they didn't know she was playing. Abby had spent years turning chaos into perfection. And now she would turn their betrayal into their undoing. Her first act was to contact Patricia, the venue coordinator and a trusted ally in the industry. Abby had pre-arranged a contingency plan, a failsafe born of the instincts that had made her a legend in event planning. She sent Patricia a message with a single word: proceed. Attached were legal documents, proof of her authority as the lead event manager and financial overseer of the wedding. With a few swift taps, Abby froze all transactions tied to the event, leveraging the fact that every vendor contract, every deposit, every payment ran through her company's accounts. The caterers, florists, photographers, and hotel, all were notified of an immediate fund freeze. The Caldwells had relied on her expertise, but they hadn't anticipated her control. As she drove to a small downtown cafe, Abby sipped a black coffee, her eyes fixed on her phone as the messages began to pour in. Nathan's text started with irritation. Where are you, Abby? This is ridiculous, then shifted to confusion. And finally to desperation as the scope of her actions dawned. The hotel cancelled our reservations. What the hell is going on? She ignored them, her focus razor sharp. The Caldwells had planned a wedding to cement their legacy. Abby would ensure it marked their collapse. 30 minutes after leaving the venue, Abby returned through a side entrance, slipping into the shadows with Patricia at her side. Are you sure about this, Ms. Harper? Patricia asked, her voice tinged with concern. Abby handed her a sealed legal envelope, her expression unyielding. This confirms the fund freeze and cancels my financial guarantee for the event. Inform them in 5 minutes. I want to see it unfold. Patricia nodded, guiding Abby to a discreet alcove near the service entrance, a perfect vantage point to witness the chaos she'd set in motion. At the family table, the Caldwells were in their element. Champagne flutes raised in a toast to Claire's wedding. Eleanor's pearl necklace gleamed under the chandelier light, her face glowing with smug satisfaction. Claire laughed, her fiancé at her side, while Nathan's forced smile betrayed a flicker of unease. Then Patricia approached, flanked by 2 staff members, and leaned down to whisper to Claire. The bride's expression shifted, joy gave way to confusion, then suspicion. She pulled out a credit card, her voice rising in urgency. But Patricia shook her head, showing her a tablet screen. The room began to sense the shift, guests glancing over with barely concealed curiosity. Eleanor set down her fork, her composure cracking like thin ice. Nathan stared at his phone, his face paling as he read Abby's final message. All wedding funds are frozen. All arrangements cancelled. Your affair with Rachel and her pregnancy will soon be public. Enjoy the cake. The words were a dagger, precise and unforgiving. Claire whispered furiously to her fiancé, while Eleanor clutched her necklace as if it could anchor her crumbling world. Nathan stood, his face flushed with a mix of rage and shame. But he froze when his phone buzzed again, a call from the hotel confirming their reservations were void. Abby watched from her hidden perch, her heart steady. This was no impulsive act of revenge. It was a calculated dismantling of the facade the Caldwells had built. She'd uncovered their secrets, Nathan's affair with Rachel. The drained trust funds. The fraudulent transfers to prop up their failing empire. She'd found the divorce papers in Nathan's briefcase. Drafted to exclude her entirely. Complete with a memo outlining how to stage her unstable behavior at the wedding. Every piece of evidence, bank statements, emails, Rachel's messages, was now in her possession. A legal arsenal she'd wielded with surgical precision. As the chaos unfolded, Nathan called her. Abby answered, her voice cool and controlled. "What the hell are you doing?" he hissed. Panic seeping through his anger. "Exactly what you planned," she replied. "You wanted a public spectacle to humiliate me. I'm just returning the favor." His voice cracked. "You don't know what this will do to us." "Fix it, Abby. Let me explain. About Rachel. About everything." She laughed softly, a sound devoid of warmth. "Explain? I've seen the financial statements. Nathan, the emails, the memo about staging my breakdown. And Rachel's pregnancy? That was a nice touch." Silence followed, his sharp intake of breath confirming her words had hit their mark. Back at the table, Patricia delivered the final blow. The wedding's financial backing was gone. Guests whispered, their curiosity turning to gossip. The Caldwells' carefully curated image shattered in real time. Abby stepped out of the alcove, her presence drawing every eye. Eleanor spoke first, her voice trembling with fury. "How dare you ruin Claire's wedding?" Abby smiled, calm and unshaken. "I learned from the best. Eleanor, you wanted a public humiliation. A staged exit. I just rewrote the ending." Nathan tried to interject, but Abby cut him off. "Every contract, every payment, was under my company's name. I enforced the terms. And the evidence, your fraud. Your affair, your plans for me? That's with my legal team now. The Financial Commission will be very interested." The Caldwells' faces drained of color. Abby turned, leaving them to their unraveling legacy. She drove away from Connecticut that night, the weight of 5 years lifting with every mile. By morning, word of the disaster had spread. The Caldwells scrambled, Eleanor pawning her prized Cartier bracelet to cover vendor costs. The Connecticut Business Tribune ran a scathing article, "Caldwell Investment Group under scrutiny." The Financial Commission launched an investigation. Partners pulled out, and the family's mansion was seized by creditors. Nathan was barred from the industry. His affair with Rachel exposed. Their relationship crumbling before their child was born. Eleanor, stripped of her social standing, moved into a modest apartment. The Caldwell name, once whispered with reverence, became a cautionary tale. Abby returned to Boston, her apartment a sanctuary of her own making. She initiated divorce proceedings, taking only what was hers, her hospitality books, her diploma, her awards, everything tied to the Caldwells. She left behind. Her event company flourished, her reputation soaring as clients praised her integrity. The story that spread wasn't of a scorned wife but of a woman who refused to be erased. 6 months later, Abby stood in a Tuscan villa, orchestrating a celebrity wedding under a sunset that painted the sky in hues of fire. Her team moved seamlessly under her direction, the air filled with genuine joy. As she raised her clipboard to the horizon, Abby realized the truth. The Caldwells' rejection hadn't broken her, it had freed her. They'd tried to make her a footnote in their story, but instead, they'd given her the courage to write her own. The empty seat at Claire's wedding, meant to humiliate her, had shown Abby exactly where she belonged, at the helm of her own life. Unshackled and unstoppable,